A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video, but more on that later.
So I've decided to develop an additional 2 springs today. Last week I developed 3 springs on our homestead, and before that we had 1 other spring developed. The goal right now is to try and get to a flow rate of 15 gallons per minute. So now that the ground has dried up and the 3 springs from last week's build have been fully waterproofed, our flow rate has dropped down to around 4 gallons per minute, which means that what I thought was a great spring is actually below average for our land. The good news is that developing springs is kind of my favorite project of all time, and I've decided to improve the process. First, I'll be making my own catchment systems from now on to cut down on costs and allow for more customization. It's basically just a sheet of 1/8 inch HDPE with a couple 2-inch through-hole adapters that you could easily make for yourself in a matter of minutes. It's honestly all still a big learning process for me, even though I've done 4 springs so far. Someone suggested in the comments not using hydraulic cement and using clay instead because it's more natural, not toxic, plus it's way cheaper. So I'm gonna try and we'll see. If you're wrong, I'm gonna have to redo it, but I think with the right kind of clay it will work. One of the big mistakes I've made so far on every single spring development is forgetting to cut down all of the dead trees in the area before I start. This one, look at how crazy that looks. Not dead, but very dangerous. There's fully dead one over there. And then the birch trees are a bit of a nightmare because they're a little bit harder to tell when they're dead. Want to help?
Totally.
You want to get it started?
Yeah.
So we're gonna dig up here. Look, see where this stake is?
Yeah.
You can start digging right here in the ground.
Mom, Dad, what do you?
Yeah, there you go, just like that. Want me to give you a little head start?
Yeah.
Look. Wow, look at that water down there. You got it?
Well, I know.
Oh, yeah, there's some roots in there too, huh? I'll just get it started.
Okay, let's see.
Well,
Okay. It's fine.
What it up. Mud.
Okay, there you go.
The mud.
Yeah, dig in the mud.
Seems like a pretty good flow.
Right? Especially now that like it's not in that like rainy crazy thing. It's like more accurate, I bet.
Mom, Moody.
Yeah. There you go.
Daddy, wanna eat that? I'm trying.
Egg muffins,
We'll see how it goes.
Wow.
They good?
Mm-hmm.
Woo!
Okay.
Dada likes it.
Want one?
Yeah.
All right, it is 12:15. Let's see how far we can get in 1 hour. So that was only like 30 minutes of digging, and I think that's as far as I'm gonna go on this one. It was really bad placement for a spring build, I realized, because it's right under this tree, so there's so many roots. But because the hill is so steep, I think it should actually be pretty easy to waterproof with the tarps. Pretty good flow rate. And I'm gonna leave it like this until the morning, and then we'll be able to see if there's any water coming through. It's hard because the clay has so much water in it already, but we can probably compact it one more time as well. And it looks like it's doing its job, not coming around the sides at all. Why don't we measure it? So that was 30 seconds, which means we get 2 gallons a minute, but I'm thinking this is actually a pretty good spring because it hasn't rained in a while, and I think the flow rate from some of those other springs I developed during this storm has actually gone down quite a bit, so we can remeasure everything. But every bit counts. I feel like if you're trying to get to 15 and you only get 2 out of a spring, it's not that many springs you need to develop, and considering this spring only took a single afternoon, it's not a bad deal. It's also the most enjoyable job I've ever done. Absolutely love developing springs, and fun to do one with all clay. No hydraulic cement needed, which is very, very nice. We'll check in the morning and see how the bottom of the dam is doing, because I'm nervous the water will go through the bottom a little bit, but I'm thinking if the water clears up, we might be able to drop a little bit of clay inside the spring and have it settle at the bottom, and that might do the trick, because the clay can compress quite a bit, and I think we're gonna need to tarp the entire area a little bit better, because everything could just wash away if it rains really, really hard, which would be sad. So I just figured out what happened to the line running from our spring down the mountain to cause the flow rate to go way down. And it's honestly kind of amazing. If you can guess what caused the line to stop flowing as much water, it still works, but it's not working as well, I will be so impressed. Just pause the video right now, write your comment of what you think caused the line to stop flowing as well. But I heard this hissing coming from the woods, and it was the weirdest sound, and I was like, it sounds like there's a little hole in the water line. But what could make a little hole in a water line running through a forest? Maybe what made that hole is a little, right here, that's either mouse or chipmunk. Maybe some nature experts know. I feel like it's a chipmunk hole. And then up here is the hose. And look at this. It's clearly been eaten. The water's not flowing out right now, but it will in a second. Look at that. It's been eaten. So if you watched our last spring build video, you might remember that I said it's very, very hard to find springs in the summer, almost impossible. But if you step on one, that's how you find it. And because I ran the lines right down this hill over this big rock, I actually walked directly into what I think is another really, really good spring. This one is coming from under a big rock, which is my favorite scenario.
Are you digging it out with your foot? Wait, this one's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, it's day 2 on this new spring build project. I think yesterday, excluding tree work, I probably only put like 4 or 5 hours into the spring development total. This spring looks like it's doing really, really well. The clay held up, honestly, almost perfectly. It looks a little bit wetter than the cement, but I think it's worth it because it's free. And yeah, I was just doing the math real quick in my head. I think with my new homemade catchment systems, it's probably about $60 per spring in terms of materials. I might put a little bit more clay just in that bottom part really gently so it can settle down. And then now we can build up the rest of the wall real quick with the shovel, fill everything in with gravel, and cap this spring. Call it. Oh. It's good enough for now. Now you can see why I was excited about this spring position. It's just so much easier to build. Also because the hill isn't that slanted here, so you don't have to build that high of a wall. I think this entire spring probably took like 4 or 5 hours start to finish, which is pretty amazing. The flow rate looks pretty good. I would say it's a little bit less than the other spring. Yeah, so it's like 1.25, 1.5 gallons per minute, I would say. All right, both springs are like 95% done. The next step in the process would be to cover that black waterproofing tarp thing with dirt and rocks to hold it down, and then add in another layer. I think the thing I would be worried about is like deer or Freja running or walking on top of it and breaking it. So having soil on top would help a little bit, and then having 2 layers is like a nice little redundancy. But I'm gonna save that project for another day because it's very time consuming. And instead, I'm gonna hook up the spring boxes now. The spring box is basically just a little box that filters out the sediment from the spring, and it also helps protect the spring in case the line gets blocked leading down the mountain in any way. The spring box would be the point that overflows, not the actual spring. All right, all 6 springs are now flowing into our spring box. It's interesting, the 3 springs I tapped last week in that video turn out to be mediocre compared to the first spring I developed and even the 2 I developed today and yesterday. So very, very strange. The rain, I guess, had a much bigger impact than I was anticipating. It was a historic amount of rain for our land, so probably should have seen that one coming. But either way, it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna keep developing springs until I get to the flow rate I need. I have another 4 springs in this area already marked out, and the supplies is on the way. So that was 10 seconds for a gallon. So we're only at 6 gallons a minute right now. But that's still pretty good. So I guess my quest for 15 gallons a minute continues. Now that I've gotten pretty fast at this, I feel like I have at most a week more of spring development left, and then I'm out of marked springs. So hopefully that gets us to the flow rate we need for the ram pump. I think there's modifications you can make to the system so you can actually operate on a way lower flow rate, but I'm trying to get as much flow rate as possible, mainly because the pipes running down the hill right now aren't insulated. So the more flow you have, the less likely they are to freeze in the winter, because the spring water comes out of the earth at like 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, I think, year round. Not exactly sure about the numbers, but it melts snow. So yeah, that's it for today. I am fully out of energy, out of ideas, out of supplies. I hope you enjoyed this video, and a big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. We have a free guided visualization program on our website that tells the story of developing springs on our homestead and is designed to help deal with stress. Looking back on the design process, it's amazing to me how quick and easy setting up pages has become on a Squarespace site. They have really helpful presets so you can get email signups easily, and being able to customize every element of a page allows you to build exactly what you're imagining down to the font, spacing, and flow of a site. Best of all, having the ability to preview desktop and mobile layouts means that you can be sure your site will look great on a phone, tablet, or computer. And having things update seamlessly allows us to focus on the important projects on our homestead, like finding fresh water and building out more springs. If you'd like to set up your own website or online store, head to squarespace.com/wildweroam for a free trial and 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.